How's it going, guys? I'm just going to explain real quick how to set up a custom Watts link here. There's really only one way to set it up and make them work. I mean, obviously there's different ways to make it, but there's only one way you're going to get it to function the way it's supposed to. So the benefit of a Watts link over like a Panhard bar is when you cycle up and down with your suspension with a Watts link, your axle's always going to stay centered. It's not going to come over at an angle. Whereas a Panhard bar, when you're raising, lowering, your frame's going to, your axle's going to come over at an angle. So it's going to be at a different position when it's all the way down as it is when it's up. With a Watts link, you can eliminate that and keep it centered all the time. So when you're setting your custom Watts link up, if you're making your own or whatever, obviously you want to find the center point. So we made this bar here and welded it to the axle just because of the way this rear end is. A lot of people are just building a bracket off this, but this is a little different here, so we didn't want to weld to that cover. Came out here with the bar, get out around the bags. This is our center point here. This does have a shaft welded through here. Anyways, what you want to do is you're going to cycle your suspension all the way to its lowest point and then cycle it all the way up to its highest point and take both measurements. So that's critical, and then you got to figure out where that in between point is. So you got to find where the midpoint is of the suspension. So right now that's pretty much where I'm sitting right now, is the midpoint. So this is just kind of our homemade system here to cycle it, but we can go ahead and lower. So this is all the way down. Frame's laying down. Sorry, forgive me, I'm trying to hold my phone and do this at the same time, so video quality is not the best here. Watch your ears. Sorry about that. I'm gonna go ahead and lift this up. So that's all the way up. Anyways, you get the point there. Just gonna lower it back down to, I went a little too far. Anyways, find your midpoint. And what I normally do is once you find your midpoint, I'll take some jack stands or something, put underneath your frame so that it can't move while you're doing it, so it can't sink or anything like that. Get it set exactly at its midpoint, and then what you're gonna do, so this is where it comes in critical to making this work right. You're gonna wanna set this, make sure that this is level. Obviously this isn't level at the moment because we just brought it back down. You're gonna make sure that this is straight up and down when it's at its midpoint. And then you're gonna make your two bars right here. And when it's at the midpoint, these bars should be perfectly level also. And then you can make your brackets here. So make both sides of the brackets, get those all tacked in. Obviously tack everything, cycle it through, make sure it's right. But as long as you go off this, when the frame is at the center point, make sure that this is vertical, make sure both these are level. You should have no issues with keeping the axle centered as you're cycling through the suspension. If you're just kind of throwing this together and you just kind of throw these bars in and this is not set up going off your center point, it's just not going to work. You can try it multiple different ways. Your axle is always going to shift when you come up or down. You're always going to be off a little bit. This is really kind of the only way to get it set up right. It's really not hard, but just take a few measurements, just take the time to do it right, and it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Forgot to add one more thing too. When you're doing this, don't forget, so these bars right here, these two are going to be exactly the same. Make these the same length. Put them together on your table, slide your bolts through on both these so they're both set up the same. get these connected in, then build your brackets here. So you can tell that, you know, this is a smaller bracket here than here, but also with this frame, it's a little different because this frame comes up right here. So this is a different height than this one here, but this one is also coming off the bottom, this one's coming off the top. So these brackets are going to be different, but if you just make sure that these are both the same and this is centered, and you'll be good.